Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. This is a long post, so strap in, guys. I, now 34 female, and my ex-husband, now 36 male, let's call him Bob, were married for nearly 10 years, together for 12, but had known each other since our early teens. He moved 4 hours away from his family to be with me, but we were happy, or so I thought. Over our 12-year relationship, we got married, we had 2 beautiful children, and bought our home. The one thing he always wanted was a canine companion, but I never did. Eventually I caved and we adopted a little doggy sidekick. This is important later. Over the years, he went through countless jobs. He would constantly be sick or wait months between ending one job and starting the other. He lost his job when I was 6 months pregnant with our youngest and didn't get back into work until he was 4 months old. I, however, worked all the hours I could to keep food on the table and the bills paid. My ex-mother-in-law was sending £1,500 a month to help us pay the mortgage and his side of the bills. He paid for the mortgage and his car. I paid everything else. He lost his job in summer of 2023, and in early 2024, my friend's husband had offered him a job working for his company. All he needed to do was speak to the managing director. He did this and self-sabotaged the interview, telling him that he was depressed and that he would struggle to work. Safe to say, I was not pleased, and this caused an argument of epic proportions. The next day, I was going to a baby shower, and he said he would drive me there and take the kids to the local park, but he decided to stay in bed. I found childcare for the children and went anyway. While I was there, I received a text saying he was off to see his family and he would be back at some point. Fair enough, it may be what he needed. 10 days later, around the children's bedtime, he shows up, banged the door open, and said, "Miss me?" Just to let you know, the marriage is over, we're selling the house, and getting rid of the dog. This sent my son into a complete meltdown, as the dog is his best friend in the whole world. I ended up leaving with the children, and went to stay with my family. I wasn't able to take the dog with me due to my parents having a cat who hates dogs. Over the coming months, I occasionally went down to the house to get the things the kids needed, toys, clothes, etc. But he expected me to ask for permission before going to the house. I think not. Here are a few things he did while I was living at my parents'. Didn't set up the bills in his name. I had canceled everything which was in my name. If I'm not living there, I'm not paying. Saw the kids for 2 hours a week after school, on one of which my son was poorly, and by the time I got to him, he was nearly hospitalized due to how high his fever was. Bob forgot to give him pain relief, or even buy some from the shop he had been in earlier that day, knowing his son was unwell. Started packing his belongings, but said he wasn't moving out. Strange, but important for the next part. Tried to sell the house without my permission or acknowledgement. Begged me to sell the house. Said he would pay for the divorce if I agreed to sell. But he was informed once the divorce was finalized, then I would think about it. This is where it gets juicy. I had been at my parents' for around 6 weeks when I decided to go to the house and get some bits I needed for the warmer weather for me and the children. When I walked in, he was sat on the sofa looking worried. He informed me that the house was being repossessed due to the arrears on the mortgage. What arrears? I wasn't aware of any. He said it was from when he was out of work and only paying the bare minimum. Plausible, yes, but when he said it was £7,000, something didn't sit right. The next day I rang the mortgage company and explained my situation. I explained that I had never dealt with the mortgage, so I literally have no clue about all this. The lovely woman I spoke to told me that he had not been paying the mortgage for a year and had canceled the payments 13 months before. As you would expect, I was angry, hurt, all of it, but I used it to my advantage. I asked the mortgage company to send me a printed version of the mortgage statement, and my plan was set into motion. It was the longest 2 weeks of my life. As you will remember from earlier in the post, my ex-mother-in-law was sending him money to help cover all the bills, including the mortgage. So I wrote her a letter, explained what I had found out, and nicely attached a copy of the statements for proof. This letter sat on my bedside table for weeks, and every time I spotted it, I giggled a little bit. A few weeks later, he asked if he could have the children, as his cousin, 45 female, let's call her Tracy, was visiting. I agreed, and they had a lovely time. He said he was off away that weekend to Tracy's family to see them, as it had been a while. Perfect timing for part 2 of my plan. He went on a Thursday, which was also the day I sent the letter to mother-in-law. Next day, I recorded delivery, and I would be informed when it had been received. On Friday, I went to the house to get more things, to find the security chain had been put on the inside of the door, so I couldn't get in. I went to the neighbors, who was looking after the dog, to ask them for the door key, to which he looked confused. The dog had been left in the cage and was going to be in there all weekend. No food, no water, and sitting in her own mess. I broke the chain off the door to get her. She was a mess. She was skinny, covered in fleas. At this point, I haven't seen her in maybe 4 weeks. The house was disgusting. The smell was vile. There was rubbish all over, empty beer cans, moldy food, you name it. Only days earlier, my children were playing in that mess. I felt sick to my stomach. How can he even think that this was an acceptable place to have the children in? He rung me not long after I got in the house, and I told him everything. I told him I know about the mortgage. I told him I was taking over the mortgage, and that he can come and get his stuff out of the house. I kicked his sorry butt out. He was aware his mom had got my letter and had ripped him a new one because of it. The next day, I rallied my troops, and we got the house cleaned, tidied, and livable again. Me and my babies had our home back, but not before I got some revenge. Bob has a shoe issue. He keeps all his shoes in the original boxes. So, being the petty biatch I am, I separated every pair, put them in different bags, and put the boxes in the recycling. There were some important documents which were folded into tiny squares and placed in different bags. I unpacked the expensive knife set that I bought and put it back into my kitchen. And the best one, I found half-used box of Viagra, so I pocketed that for later pettiness. Later that night, he rung, and I told him everything will be on the driveway the next day for him to come and collect it, or it was going in the bin. Sure enough, he turned up, and greeting him was this packet of Viagra, front and center of all his stuff. Me and my troops were watching from the bedroom window, while him, Tracy, and his friend packed everything into the cars, and my uncle and aunt sat on the bench opposite watching and waving him off. A few days later, I found out that Bob and Tracy were in a relationship. Yes, they are cousins. And he had cheated on me with her before we had split up. He is still a jobless bum, living 4 hours away from his kids with his mom, who, by the way, didn't take kindly to me outing her son as such a bad person. He sees his children once every 6 weeks and is forced to pay child support. As for me, I'm still living in my house. I've been promoted. I have a new partner who is amazing. And me, my 2 children, and our doggy sidekick are all doing amazing. Honestly, it sounds like OP has been carrying this whole relationship and this family on her back for years. The fact that OP stayed and tried to make it work while he essentially sabotaged everything is a testament to how much OP cared. I'm glad OP took control, stood up for herself, and gave him a taste of accountability. Also, A+ on the shoe stunt and the timing of the mother-in-law letter. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Glad your marriage to that human alley cat. Edit. Based on informal poll of responses from cat lovers. Let's go with waste of fresh air. Ended well for you and kids and doggo. While I don't understand mortgages UK style, one thing I don't understand is how you walked the home out of repossession. And mother-in-law tore him a new one and was upset you outed the spoiled one? Not sure how that works, but okay. Given his slothiness, I'm surprised he kept his shoes so ordered. And I bet he just trashed all the mixed-up shoes and lost his important paperwork. So be it. I hope this story is true, as the happy ending paragraph always makes me wonder, as too many AI-spun tales of woe end that way. So I've become a bit of a skeptic where happy fairy tale endings are concerned. A bit surprised, too, you didn't twig to the dog being neglected in your revisit when he announced repossession and divorce. Disappointed you didn't take the dog away at that point and find it at least a better place to live. But if your account is true, good job, and trashing his shoe collection must have felt delicious in its doing. Edit. OP cleared up my questions, and I cleared up a dyslexic typo. Skeptic was spelled exptic. This guy really thought he could coast through life while you did all the heavy lifting, huh? And leaving the dog in that condition? Absolutely disgusting. Good on you for taking your home and your life back. The cherry on top is that he ended up with his cousin. Sounds like he's living in the mess he made. Meanwhile, you're thriving. Good for you. Wow, this guy was a mess, and you kept things together for far too long. His mom must have been floored when she got that letter. And the whole cousin thing, yikes. It's not even petty at this point, it's justice. You put up with more than most would, and I'm glad you've come out of this stronger. Cheers to the next chapter of your life being way better than the last. I, 36 female, have just gotten out of my 10-year marriage. After the divorce, I got a substantial amount of settlement, which I plan to use to start my own business, wellness spa. I got a call from my sister, Jane, 34 female, last week, distraught. She said her stepdaughter, Denise, 16 female, had been picked on at school. Denise and her dad, James, 41 male, had just moved to our city 6 months ago after James and Jane got engaged. They're getting married next year in February. Jane said the kids at school had been treating Denise badly because of how she looks. She has a big nose and a birthmark on the tip. It is still mandatory in our country to wear masks, but the kids see Jane's nose whenever she takes off her mask to eat or drink. I asked Jane how's Denise doing, and she said Denise has been refusing to go to school. Turns out she was picked on since day one. I know how mean kids can be, so I really felt sorry for Denise. I asked my sister what their plans are, if they are looking to transfer Denise to a different school. Jane said Denise has asked for a nose job. The problem is that they have been saving their money for the wedding next year. Jane asked if I could pay the bill for Denise. I said sure, I'll cover for 1/3 of the cost and they don't have to pay me back, as I want to help Denise. My sister said 1/3 won't be enough. She wants me to pay the entire amount. I said I can't do that, and I don't have that kind of money. Jane brought up my divorce settlement, so cut her off and said that money is intended for something else. She tried to reason with me, and when it didn't work, she told me I'm no better than those who picked on her stepdaughter. After my conversation with Jane, her fiancé called and explained the whole thing. He said Denise had also asked to get Invisalign. I told James that I really feel sorry for Denise because I was picked on in high school for being overweight, but I can't give them the whole amount right now. He thanked me for my offer, which he gladly accepted. My sister, on the other hand, has still not contacted me. She's really pissed because by not agreeing to foot the entire bill, they are now going to get the money from their savings intended for the wedding. Edit. Let me add a few infos that I forgot to include. They already have the money for the Invisalign. They only need more for the nose job. What they plan to do is get the procedures done, then transfer Denise to a new school where no one has seen her original appearance. To those who said that a nose job will not solve her problems and that we will be teaching her wrong things about beauty standards by letting her change her appearance, please, you do not know what it is like to be picked on by people you see every day. I experienced this myself, and it was awful, but at least I had a few friends to back me up before. Denise doesn't have that kind of support, as she has only been to the school for 6 months. I will still give them the 1/3 that I offered, and I heard from James that they will get the money from their honeymoon savings, as they still have plenty of time to save for it. So, your sister's priority list is her wedding, her daughter's self-confidence. Anyone else see a problem there? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Therapy and changing school is the answer while she is young. Having the school get involved to punish the aggressors too. Them expecting you to spend your divorce settlement on your stepniece is incredibly entitled and ridiculous. Do it, some of it out of the kindness of your heart if you want, but don't let them push you into it. Not the a-hole. They're two nearly middle-aged people. They don't need a big shindig and can damn well take some of the money out of the wedding savings to make Denise's life better. My 22 female, dad, 52 female, and his wife, 42 female, got married around 8 years ago. She was initially very charming and sweet, but behind closed doors, she became very manipulative a few years into their marriage. I, still in university, moved in with my dad and his wife when I was 19, and she made it clear she didn't want me around. I also became increasingly concerned about the way she treated my dad. I witnessed constant gaslighting, and I could see him beginning to doubt himself all the time. They were also trying for a baby, and his wife had 2 miscarriages over this period of time. My dad let me know that he did not really want a baby. However, he wanted to make her happy. At that point, I did not have any problem with them having a child together. However, there was constant tension in the house, and his wife eventually moved out into a flat nearby. She maintained to my dad that they were still in a relationship, and he remained loyal to her. However, she became unavailable to my dad and was constantly out at bars, being cagey with her phone around him, etc. Basically, it seemed to me that she was stringing him along while possibly seeing other people. That was 14 months ago, and for the past 6 months or so, she has refused to contact my dad in any way other than sending each other letters back and forth. She has also since moved 7 hours away from us, and so her and my dad have not seen each other for around 6 months. About 9 months ago, my dad's mom, my grandma, died, and she did not answer any of his calls during this time period, although she knew what was going on. Recently, my dad has been really unhappy about how unavailable his wife is. He has been drinking much more and seems really depressed. So the other day, when I found one of the letters from my dad's wife to him, I read it. I know this was nosy and invasive, but I did it out of concern for my dad. In the letter, she says that she has, as they have agreed, I didn't know this, been going to an IVF clinic and was about to start the screening process. However, the clinic has told her that they won't go ahead with screening because her and my dad are no longer together. She then says to my dad that they could get a solicitor to draft a parental agreement, but she says this would cost them thousands of pounds. So she suggests that instead they both lie to the IVF clinic and say that they are together. It seems to me as if she's trying to dissuade my dad from a legal document which would protect him. To an outsider, it seems very clear that she doesn't want a relationship with my dad, refusing contact, moving 7 hours away, constant ultimatums and game playing, but that she wants to have a baby with him because he will pay for the IVF and will have to pay child support. She does not work. He earns a good amount. I would like to contact my dad's wife. She hasn't spoken to me since my grandma died, if only so she knows someone is on to her. Am I the a-hole for wanting to step in here? Not the a-hole. She is being aggressive with your father. I would have a frank discussion with him about what, if any, benefits he gets out of the marriage. He needs to get a legal separation at the minimum and a divorce, just to protect himself from whatever he is doing. Not the a-hole. Hire a private investigator. Need pics to show her with other men. She's probably living with another man, lying to that man, and definitely lying to your dad. She's trying to extort money out of him. Get your dad some help. He needs therapy to break out of whatever delusion he is under. Stepmama is diabolical. She doesn't want a baby. She wants money. She will convince him to deposit money in her account so that she can pay for treatment. Have your dad insist that the IVF has to be done in his city, non-negotiable. Not the a-hole. I would write the IVF clinic and tell them she and your father have lived 7 hours apart since X date. I would also write that they intend to lie in their forms, and you don't think that is in the best interest of a baby. My 37 male, fiancé, 33 female, had an emergency surgery years before we met that left her unable to conceive without IVF. She told me this 4 or 5 dates in, so I knew early on. My fiancé is seriously one of the best humans I've ever met, and we plan to try IVF, knowing it may or may not be successful. Since we got engaged, my parents have been endless with the grandbabies talk. My mom especially constantly talks about how she can't wait to be a grandmother, how spring and summer babies would be so nice, hint hint. I didn't tell them about my fiancé's infertility because, frankly, her body is no one's damn business but hers. It bothers my fiancé a lot. She cries pretty much every time this happens. She agreed to let me talk to them, so I went over to my parents yesterday and explained it. My mother instantly starts crying, said this is the worst news for a woman my age, and that she was devastated for me. My mom and I are very close. I'm the only child, but I still thought this was a huge overreaction. But then she made it much, much worse. Backstory. I heavily abused alcohol for most of my teens and 20s. I was sober for 5 years, on year 8 now, before I started dating again, and even though I always made it clear that I didn't expect my partner to also be sober, dating really sucked until I met my fiancé. She not only supported me, but did it enthusiastically. She comes up with these crazy, delicious, mocktails every date night. I took care of all my issues with lots of therapy before I met her, but it helps a lot to have someone so supportive. She constantly makes me want to be a better man. Anyway, Mom suggested that I got engaged too quickly because I feel insecure about my sobriety. I don't. And, you know I love fiancé very much, But have you considered breaking off the engagement and being with someone younger? So, yeah, I lost my stuff. I told her she was being selfish and that my fiancé isn't a baby-making machine and deserves a better mother-in-law. I said that if we were ever able to have kids with IVF, unless she changes her attitude, I don't want her in my kids' lives. My mom and I are really close, and we've never really fought, so she took this really hard. My dad says I was out of line and that my mom is just grieving and didn't mean what she said and regrets it. While I get that, I don't think that's an excuse for what she said, and I'm not going to encourage that behavior. I haven't told my fiancé all the details because she would be absolutely devastated. My best friend is on my side. Another friend says this is an everyone sucks here situation because I overreacted. I'm not saying I'm going to cut my mom out of my life, but she needs to apologize and change her attitude. So let me have it. Did I overreact? Am I the a-hole? Edit. I see some comments about why I jumped to the infertility. I didn't. When this first started a while ago, I used to joke with my parents that they are basically asking how often my fiancé and I have S. I know, very mature. Hoping they would realize how awkward this is to even ask. It didn't work. So I was a lot more direct and told them that we'll have kids when we're ready, and they need to let us make the decision. If she is pregnant, they will obviously be some of the first to know. It worked for a while until it started up again. The day all this happened, my fiancé ordered onion rings. My mom said, "Oh, when I was pregnant with me, I loved onion rings. Same with you?" I told her to stop it, made my fiancé very, very upset. Not the first time she said something like that after we said to stop. We both agreed that maybe if they knew why this was so hurtful, it would stop. I did not pressure her. I made sure she was on board 100% before I talked to them. Not the a-hole, and good for you for defending your wife. You are a good man and a good husband. Definitely not the a-hole. OP, she literally said to abandon one of the best things in your life so she can have what she wants, even if it would crush both you and your fiancé. That's not the words of a loving mother and grandma. That's selfish and cruel on a level that is repulsive and extremely unhealthy. You actually should go no contact until she agrees to see a therapist. It sounds like this is unusual for her, especially if you are that close. Something isn't right with her behavior, and she's telling you to do awful things for her to be happy. It's not your job to make her happy. She can't change others to be happy either. So she needs to do the emotional and mental work of finding other ways to be happy, even if she never has a biological grandkid. You can miss out on things in life and still be happy. And that's what she needs to do before she rejoins your life. Otherwise, what if she confronts your fiancé about this? Which is another issue. You don't have to go into detail, but your fiancé probably should get some advanced warning that your mother is behaving strangely, and you want to limit or avoid contact for a bit until she gets herself in a better mindset. Not the a-hole. You had an appropriate reaction. Your mother is making it all about herself when the situation's between you and your fiancé. If your mother can't be supportive, then it's time to put her in low contact or no contact until she respects your and your fiancé's boundaries and stays sane. Same goes with anyone who chooses your mom over your fiancé's feelings. They won't give a sincere apology unless they actually mean it, which also means you need boundaries or else you'll keep losing your crap. My sister and I had what I considered a forced close relationship growing up. Our parents had the mindset of family first and family above all else, which meant we had to hang out and be friends with each other and could only maintain minimal friendships. My sister loved it. She loved me, but I have been annoyed with my sister for a lot of years, and I will admit I resent the hell out of her. She's one of those people who naturally is good at most stuff and tends to attract a lot of positive attention for one reason or another. There have been times when something was supposed to be about me, but she would come out with something that got her attention. Examples: I had trouble in school. As an adult, I was diagnosed with a learning disability, but not as a kid. Got my first A when I was 11 after struggling to get D's and C's for years. We were meant to go out and celebrate that and my hard work, but she had been selected to do her school spelling bee, and that whole celebration turned from one for me into one for her, and they even lost the paper with the A because my parents had taken it with us. My 13th birthday became about her because she was selected for some science competition, and they wanted to take her out to celebrate that, and my birthday was forgotten. She even forgot to give me the card she had there for me because she'd been so happy for herself. I got it like 3 weeks later. I was entered into an art competition and won, And when we were out to celebrate that, she got a call that she won a full scholarship for college, which my win was forgotten for hers. She announced her engagement at my 18th birthday party and tried to turn it into an engagement party for herself. She announced her pregnancy while I was in the hospital, having been told I had endometritis and would be unlikely to conceive naturally, if I could at all, even with IVF. I was getting ready for my first surgery for it also at this time, and she announced it saying she wanted us all to have something happy to celebrate, and she just knew it would make it all better for me. So yeah, I've wanted to distance myself for a while now, but it was 7 months ago that I told her our relationship didn't work for me, and I was calling time on us being in each other's lives. At that point, I only saw my parents, because I blamed them for a lot of stuff too, when it was related to some other family member. But I told her I was done with her not giving a crap about me or what I was going through. I sent out invites to my wedding. Neither she nor my parents are invited, but everyone is more outraged that I didn't invite her. I was told it seemed wrong, when if anyone is to blame for how things have been, it's my parents. But I should love and value my sister enough to invite her. My sister is hurt and says I'm pushing her away when she has only ever tried to include me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It doesn't matter if it was intentional on her end or not. You were neglected. Regardless, it's your wedding anyway. The only people with a say on the guest list are you and the person you're marrying. Not the a-hole. The incidents when you were young are on your parents. But she was old enough to know not to hijack your 18th birthday to celebrate her engagement. If she knew about the endo, possibly making you infertile, her pregnancy announcement was also cruel. You spoke up and said what you needed, a break from the relationship. She could be complaining now for attention, so try not to give it to her. Try telling anyone who's complaining something like, "We have a complicated relationship, and I told her I needed space. I can only hope she and you will accept that." Not the a-hole. You have the right to feel whatever you feel. Hurt, sadness, pain, unhappiness. It doesn't matter if your sister didn't do anything to hurt you on purpose, and if it was your parents' blatant favoritism that created most of the situations that hurt you. You also have the right to invite whoever you want to your wedding. Excluding people who make you feel bad and disrespected doesn't make you an idiot.